What mistakes did they make and how can we avoid it?
Yeah, so there are some really common mistakes. I think some of the ones I've already mentioned is not having a KPI dashboard.
Right.
A second one that I sort of alluded to is not looking at your financials. The other common mistake I'll see people make is entrepreneurs early on is they overinvest in the business by acquiring things that make them feel good but don't really make any money.
Welcome to the Unleash Success Podcast, where we break down the secrets of success to give you real tools and strategies that get real results. And now, here's your host, Corey Corpodian.
Guys, real quick, I just want to invite you to a free giveaway worth $185. We are giving away the iconic canvas art, the Success Iceberg, where it shows all these things that you have to do underneath the water in order to achieve success, which is just the tip of the iceberg. To enter into this free giveaway, we are giving away one piece of art worth $185. All you got to do is click on the link in the show notes and you can enter. There's a lot of different ways to enter, so be sure to check the link in the show notes for your chance to win this iconic piece of art. You won't want to miss it. It looks great in your office. It looks great in your hallway, wherever you want to put it. It is an absolute awesome motivation reminder and one gift that I want to give one of you guys for listening to Unleash Success. Welcome back to Unleash Success. I'm Corey Corpodian, your host. We're breaking down the secrets of success into real tools and strategies today with our guest, Arman Sadeghi. He built a company to number 366 on the Inc. Top 500 growth list in 2013 with All Green. He's also an owner of 6 other different companies, including Titanium Marketing and Titanium Success, where he helps businesses explode in their growth and potential, helping individual business owners maximize their results. Arman, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me on the show, Corey. I appreciate it. It's good to be here.
Oh, man, I feel like we've been trying to get this interview going for so much time, and I'm so excited, just even in the pre-talk just a few minutes ago about all the cool things that you're doing and all the businesses, jumping into a pizza restaurant and everything. But I want to figure out where you started your journey in entrepreneurship and how you were able to create such a massive and fast-growing company with All Green.
Yeah, well, I mean, my entrepreneurship started when I was 15 years old. And some roots of it before that, stuff that a lot of kids get into. But really my first real business that was registered was when I was 15 years old. I got into the IT business in the early 90s. And what a good time to get into it, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so before I knew it, I was, without knowing anything about business, without knowing anything about anything really, I had a pretty successful business, and I decided I was going to drop out of high school. So I dropped out of high school to pursue this business, moved out of my parents' house, got myself a nice apartment, nice car, all this stuff. And here I was, the 16-year-old kid, just barely driving at this point, and that was my life. And at one point I figured out that probably wasn't a good strategy and changed, but that really is the roots of my entrepreneurship began way back then.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Oh, we got some people having some fun out here right now. So you started your first company, and that was actually a pretty big success for you at such an early age, right? And you ended up selling that company. What did you do? What was your path? Did you end up going to college?
I did, yeah. So at one point when I was, I believe, 19 years old, I saw all my friends graduate high school and go off to college. And so what I decided to do was, I wanted to go get a college degree. I wasn't going to be uneducated. And I'd always promised my parents when I left high school, I didn't even get a GED. So I'd always promised, I said, look, I'm going to go back and get a college degree at one point. Just, I don't know if it's going to be in my 20s, 30s, 40s, or who knows. And so, at the age of 19, I decided to go back. And I still didn't take my GED, but I went to a community college, did really well, got myself a 4.0, got my way into UC Berkeley. And long story short, worked really hard there and eventually made my way into Harvard Medical School, actually. And somehow all of that led me back into the world of business instead of the world of medicine. But it was quite a journey, but it's allowed me to get a lot of real world experience.
That's interesting. I remember you saying that you actually went to Harvard Medical School and then decided that wasn't for you. So, I mean, a lot of people listen to this, and especially nowadays with the millennial and Generation Z and online, businesses and building stuff like that, they're all like looking for something that says, hey, I don't know if college is right for me. And you went all the way into medical school. How did you make that decision that said, hey, I'm halfway in or whatever it was into this career, and I'm going to make a major switch and go start a business?
There were a lot of factors involved. Some that were within my control, some that were outside of my control. To this day, I would love to go back to medical school, finish medical school. I left about 2.5 years into it, and be a doctor. Now, I don't know how much time I have to actually do what doctors do, and so. But I never. Some people think I left because I didn't like medical school. Not at all. It was a lot of it. It was a mixture of personal things with, I had just fallen in love with a girl and gotten married, and she lived in California, and my wife's an attorney. Now we've been together for over 12 years, but at the time it was new, and we were newlyweds and living across the country from each other. And it was really difficult. And I'm quite outspoken, and I like to speak my mind and do my own thing. And that didn't jive too much with some of the faculty, not the professors. The professors loved me, but some of the faculty at Harvard Medical School, because I kept pushing some of my stuff out there, and I'd have these talks and this and that, and so there was friction there, and there was a lot of stuff going on. And so for me, I was blessed to have a backup, which is the business world, something I had spent a lot of time in. And so I came back and moved in with my wife and started a business, and one turned into 2 and 3 and 7 and everything we've got going on now.
Wow, that's absolutely incredible. And when you left medical school, that's when you started Allgreen, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, and so Allgreen, walk us through. Allgreen is a recycling company for electronics, data destruction. Where was the inspiration for that? I know you did a TEDx talk about all this entire concept. So walk us through that.
Absolutely. I have an uncle who's this amazing businessman and one of my mentors. And he reached out to me. He said, hey, I know you just left medical school. What are you trying to get into? I know you have an IT background. And we were just talking. And he said, I saw this special on 60 Minutes the other day. You should really check it out. And so, since I respect him, I don't watch any TV, but since I respect him, I said, okay, I'll go check this thing out. And I watched it. And it was a 60-minute special on how our electronic waste, which is the largest growing sector of solid waste in the United States, in fact, in the world. People don't think about that, but it's by far the largest growing sector of waste. And it's essentially, it was at the time being dumped on developing nations, places in China and in Africa and other places. And so I looked at this and said, gosh, I can do something about this. First of all, I went to Berkeley, and that's where I learned how to be green. And I have an IT background, right? So I've got the green thing, I've got the IT thing, I've got the business thing. I can figure out a solution for this, right? And I like to create things. I like to solve problems. And here's a problem that, no one has really figured out a solution for. And so it was about 10 years ago, and I came up with a company. I developed a strategy, and it was a lot of different factors, but we were blessed. The business just exploded, and to this day, it's an amazing company. It does really well, and I'm not involved at all in the day-to-day operations anymore. But it's an amazing company, and I'm proud to have been able to create it because it does a good thing for the world.
Absolutely. I know. I mean, that's, we could jump into it real quick. I mean, that's how I ended up going to one of your events. Actually, later on, you have an incredible story. I mean, building this awesome company, and then you want to give back to be able to help others kind of find their purpose in life, be more successful in life. You come up with Titanium Success, and that's actually where I first met you, was at a leadership event that you did, and phenomenal event. And I'll just jump into the story real quick because we have to. And that's where I ended up meeting my now girlfriend of 3 years, was at that very event. She was an employee of yours, of all things. And so just incredible how that helped the world and also helped me, that company. So I wanted to ask you too, just with growing that, I mean, electronic devices and how nowadays, instead of trying to fix stuff, we end up throwing it away. And now I know so much about recycling and being green and how to dispose of things properly. But instead of fixing it, we're just all this waste. I mean, think about how many times we have cell phones, which we don't use, end up in a drawer for, years and years and just stack up. And where's all that going? I never would have thought about it until I met you and we started talking about it. You talk about a little bit about a strategy for your business. What was the strategy? What did it look like to grow a business like that?
Well, I mean, for one, something that people don't really think about is when we think about electronic waste, we think about our cell phones and things like that. But a much bigger version of that is if you think about these companies. Imagine these companies that are upgrading their IT equipment every 3, 4, 5 years, or telecom equipment, let's say, right? Or a company like Amazon that owns more servers than anyone else in the world. And they happen to, by the way, be one of our clients. So you imagine when Amazon upgrades the servers in one of their buildings, and you imagine when they upgrade this stuff, it's literally tractor trailer fulls of it. 5, 6, 7 tractor trailer fulls of this stuff. And it all has secure data on it. And some of it is so outdated that there's no use for it anywhere in the world. Some of it could be reused, right? But it would have to be done properly. How do you take laptops, say, from a company like Microsoft or GE or whoever, your favorite hotel chain or whatever, and or a hospital, and take that equipment and get the data off of it, shred the hard drives so that it's safe and clean, and then make it available for reuse for consumers, maybe low-income families and things like that. And that's the kind of stuff that we were able to do that set us apart from everyone else, instead of filling containers and shipping it to China.
Wow, that's absolutely incredible. You talk about how All Green led into several different businesses, and you really are a serial entrepreneur, which is why I'm so excited to be talking to you right now. Just how do you identify new opportunities and new businesses to jump into? What's your strategy for even starting a new business?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, for me, I can say one of the reasons that All Green has been so good for me is because it's an industry that has gone through so much change over the last 10 years. And at times where, we saw 80% of our competitors go out of business because the market's shifted. Wow. And we were slightly ahead of the curve while they were slightly behind the curve. Or some just didn't even see it and didn't catch the curve, right? So you see a company like Blockbuster Video. Well, where are they now? I always use them as an example with all my employees and at my seminars, because if you look at Blockbuster, what happened to them? Well, I mean, one day they controlled the entire market, and the next minute they're gone and Netflix is in. But if you look,
even Blockbuster was given an opportunity to buy Netflix for like $50 million, and now Blockbuster's gone and Netflix is billions, right?
Yes.
It's crazy.
And, I mean, they had an opportunity to buy Netflix, and they had an opportunity to sort of try to do what Netflix was doing. But interestingly enough, when you look at Netflix is an example of a company, their industry's gone too. Remember, Netflix started mailing DVDs to people, right? Well, where's that business now? It's essentially non-existent. But what they're doing now is it's all digital, right? It's all through the cloud.
Yeah.
And so they caught the next curve. So you look at Blockbuster, let's just say that maybe they had actually caught this wave and had gotten into the mailing business. Well, the question is, would they have caught that next change, which was the cloud, or would they have gotten wiped out then? And so it's an interesting question. The same leadership at Blockbuster, had they bought Netflix, maybe both companies would be out of business today because they wouldn't have seen that next curve. So what I like to pride myself on is that I look at where industries are going, and I like to be a little bit ahead of the curve. And that's how I look for opportunities in businesses. I want to find a business where I feel like there's some part of the business that I can do better than others, right? And so I get into those businesses. Some are very simple, like, say recycling electronics. Others are like my marketing company, digital marketing, building websites and search engine optimization. Another one that I have is a photography, videography studio. I mean, those are all around the world, but we happen to do it a little bit better than everyone else, we think. And, I have my coaching business, and I've gotten into restaurants, and I have a medical company that's on a cutting edge of something. And the key is to just look for those opportunities. But I will say, for anyone out there, if you're a young entrepreneur and you're looking at this and going, how do I start my business? The key is you got to understand hard work is going to trump everything else. And I think, Corey, that's the thing that most people make a mistake about, is they think they're going to come up with this great idea, and that great idea is going to make them millions and billions. And they sometimes sit back waiting for that great idea to come along, or they have the great idea and they think they need money to make it happen, right? And they're like, well, I don't have enough money. But I will tell you, in entrepreneurship. Hard work absolutely trumps everything else. And for me, I think I've proven that time and time again that regardless of whether it's starting a business or stopping one of my businesses from going bankrupt because industries shift and economies shift, that every time I've worked hard and my hard work has paid off.
That's awesome. I'm reminded of I think something you said at one of the seminars I was at is that if I wake up, if I beat the sun out of bed, it's a good day. I mean, you're the guy who's always up at 4 or 4:30. You have these challenges for fitness, be in the gym, be in and out in 25 minutes or 45 total, 25-minute workouts. And so you really maximize your time and work these long, long hours. I think people underestimate that. What go over your daily routine when you're in the thick of it, building a business. What does your day look like?
Yeah, and the key is you said it right. When I'm in the thick of it, right? So when I'm in the mode of building a new business, it's up at 4 a.m., sometimes earlier, maybe 3:30. It's get up, get ready, and get out. I like to be out of the house within 10 to 15 minutes. And I don't kid around. I'll set alarms for myself. So when, a year and a half ago, when I was trying to exit Allgreen, one of my biggest company, I went through a 6-month period where I would get up at 3:30, 4 o'clock every morning, be out of the house within 10 minutes, and then drive straight to the gym because I don't ever miss a workout because my workout isn't just for my body to make my muscles bigger. My workout is for my mind. It's to keep me energized, it's to keep me healthy, keep me going. And as you said, it's not like when I go to the gym, I spend 2 hours in there. I'm not socializing with people. I get in and I get out. So I'm out of the house in 10 minutes. The gym for me is 5 minutes away from my house, and I have a locker there where I keep my stuff. So I can get in, get my workout done in 25 minutes, go downstairs, shower, change, get ready, and wear my suit or wear whatever I'm wearing that day and be back in my car within 45 minutes. And then from there, it's off to the office. And when I'm at the office, it's all business all day. There's no social media. I don't sit there on Instagram. I don't mess with my phone. In fact, a lot of people friends and family get frustrated because they're like, I text you this morning. I'm like, well, it's 7 p.m. I'm still going. When I take a break, you'll hear from me. And so a lot of times that's how it is. But that's what it takes to build the business. And so, when I'm in that mode, weekends are just another day to work for me. I'm not, oh gosh, it's Saturday, I have to take time. No, it's Saturday. That's a great day because everyone else is off. So it's 15 hours that I can get ahead.
Yeah.
And so working those 15-hour Saturdays and Sundays and holidays, and during those times, there have even been days where, like Thanksgiving, I'll get up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning on Thanksgiving Day and go to the office, do my work, right, and be out of there by 11:30 or 12, and then make it to Thanksgiving with the family, and everyone else just rolled out of bed an hour ago, and I just put in 8-9 hours of work and got my work done.
All right, so how do you have so much energy, right? I mean, 15-hour days for 6 months is brutal for anybody. Where do you get the energy?
Well, I mean, one is just taking care of your body, of course. It's your health and working out regularly, eating the right foods and keeping fit and healthy. And that's why a lot of people look at my social media and think I'm like a fitness trainer or fitness coach, right? And I'm like, no, I'm a business coach. And they say, so what's up with all the muscles and the six packs and stuff? And it's because that stuff represents what's going on inside of my body. And I have a lot of energy. And I will tell you, keep in mind, I do those things when I'm trying to make big things happen. And it's not always for 6 months. Often it's for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I like to do these short spurts where I just go at it and I get massive results in a short period of time because it matches my personality.
Yeah.
Now, for some people, they like the slow and steady approach. And I believe that works just as well. But for me, it's getting focused on something and doing it for a few months, 6 months, whatever it is, but having everything into it. And then getting a result that gets me excited and it gets me out of bed every morning.
I'm the same way. I mean, I like to be working intensely on something and then getting the result. I don't want to be kind of slow rolling for 3 years type of business model or, okay, maybe we'll figure it out then. And I look back after a year and I go, what was I doing? And I like to be as intense as possible. So I totally understand that. But I think that's how you get some big results. I mean, a lot of people, we disappear for a couple months at a time, and then they're like, what were you doing? I was working on, this entire business. Or I remember I do a fitness competition, and people were like, I haven't seen you on the weekends. So I was like, yeah, well, it's just not going out. Like, I have stuff to do between that and working out and work and then podcasting, and it was just, you stay very busy. A lot of people procrastinate, are you able to balance life? I mean, you've got a lot going on, 7 companies, you've got 2 little girls, a wife, and you still work out and you still will plan these big trips and vacations. And if anybody does follow you on social media, they're like, this guy doesn't work, right? So how do you balance it all and not procrastinate some of these big ticket items you need to take care of?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, one thing about procrastination is if you have a vision that gets you excited, it makes it a lot easier to not procrastinate, right? When your vision is not right in front of you and it's maybe too far away, like people have these dreams about what they can accomplish in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. I'm like, yeah, that's great. I've got some of those too. But really, I'm focused on what can I get done today? What can I get done this week and this month? And that leads me, of course, down the path that'll get me my big results in, say, 10 years and 20 years. So number one is having those. And then number two is accountability. You have to make sure that you're held accountable. And for me in particular, I like to stay accountable to other people. So one of the things I do a lot of is focus on who can I sort of tell that I'm going to do something, right? So whether it's my wife or my friends or my family or my employees, I talk to them about the things that I'm going to get done. And I'll tell them I'm going to get up at 4 a.m. every morning. Well, guess what? If I tell my wife I'm getting up at 4 a.m. every morning for the next 40 days, and now it's 12 days into it and I get lazy, guess what? I don't look so good, right? So I'm focused on making sure I follow through. And so that accountability, especially the third-party accountability, for me is really big. So when I want to procrastinate, when I want to stay in bed, and people think that, this Arman Sadeghi guy, he's just some special creature that doesn't like to sleep, and even my wife sometimes makes the mistake of thinking like I don't need sleep. No, I need sleep. Let me tell you, at 4 a.m. when that alarm clock goes off, I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss on your podcast, but man. I mean, I cuss out my alarm clock sometimes, and I'm like, God dang, F this and F that, and I'm not happy at that moment, but I still get up. And that's the difference, I think. I think some people feel the pain and they give into it. Other people like me, I feel the pain. I don't want to do it. I don't want to get up. And at that moment, I hate life and I hate everything. And I hate that alarm clock. But you know what? I get up anyways and I suffer through the pain, go splash some cold water on my face. And 5 minutes later, I'm thanking God that I got up. And 20 minutes later, I'm at the gym and I'm having a great time and I have energy. And an hour later, 2 hours later, I'm at the office getting work done with no one around, and the sun's still not up. And I have beat the sun not only out of bed, but I beat the sun to the gym and I beat the sun to the office. Nice. And then, by the time other people are rolling in around 9 o'clock, my gosh, half my day is already done, and I can choose to either have a relaxed life, which you talk about, these days where I'm on vacation a lot. Like right now we're hanging out on my boat, and it's the middle of the work day, where's my work? Well, I want to hang out on the boat today. And so as long as you have that in you, which I've developed, I can get most of my work done in a few hours, right? And unless I'm building something new or doing something massive, I've developed systems within my companies where they run themselves. Yeah. And so now I can take 2 weeks and go traveling around Europe and whatever. And, on each of those days, I might be connected for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And in those 30 minutes, I can run 7 different companies for the most part because those systems are in place.
That's awesome. You kind of remind me of Tim Ferriss, who how he puts all these systems in place and he created that 4-hour work week and everything. That book, really, once I read that, I constantly kept looking for like a muse, which he calls it, but automation really is what it is. It's how do you automate a business to allow you to more easily manage that business and not necessarily work in the day-to-day, which I'd like to get into a little bit with you. And I know you do business coaching, and we had talked a little bit earlier, but there's really 2 parts to that business coaching, and I'd like you to go into that, and then we maybe jump into the strategies that you use with that as well. So what are the 2 types of coaching that you really provide for these businesses?
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy 2 types of business coaching, and I get all kinds of calls for people who want to hire me to go into their company, and 90% of the time it's not the right fit. But there are 2 times where it is the right fit. Time number 1 is a highly successful entrepreneur or professional, doctors, lawyers, who have a business and they're doing really well. They're doing really well. They're making good money. But they don't have any balance in their lives. You know, it's the typical thing of a doctor or a lawyer or an entrepreneur who makes really good money, has a great business. You know, they're really proud of what they have, but one, their business falls apart without them, right? Or or they just can't get away long enough to enjoy their lives, or they can't spend time with their kids and they can't travel and all this stuff. And so when I get that call, and I have I do a 1 hour thing where I go through things with them and just find out if they're a right fit. And if I feel like I'm the right fit, in that case, I can help those people either get to the point where they make even more money, right, and work a little bit less, always a little bit less. If you don't want to work a little bit less in the long term, I'm not the right guy for you, because in the short term, I'm going to kick your ass, right? In the short term, I'm going to make you do things like wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, right? But all of that is with the vision that in 6 months, you can now take 2-week-long vacations and make just as much money and more than you were making before when you were working your normal, 9 to 5 or, 8 to 7, depending on where your business is at. And so that's one. And as part of that, by the way, some other people just say, no, I just want to exit the business completely, Arman, and do what you did with many of your companies. And so I help them do that, where they get to the point where within 6 months, and that's my thing, 6 months, any more than 6 months, I lose focus. And, to me, it's just too long. And so,
I'm sorry. So you're saying you lose focus. The guy who handles 7 different companies, I lose focus, right? That's just funny. But is that because after 6 months, I mean, is there like a pressure cooker? I mean, it sounds like you compress all that intensity into 6 months and do as much as you can and then get the result. And if it's not going to get the result, I don't know, what is it about 6 months? I feel like 6 months is a good amount of time too, usually to create significant changes that you start to see results. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is for you. So that's what I'm wondering. 6
months, I think, is enough time that you can see it, right? And so I think human beings can do just about anything for 6 months, right? So if you live in a big, beautiful house, and I say, okay, for 6 months, you have to move into a studio apartment, right? I think most people can do it. If I tell them you got to do it for a year and they're used to living in a mansion, they might say no. If you drive a beautiful car, high-end convertible, and I say, okay, for 6 months, you've got to drive this whatever car, this 10-year-old car. I think people can do a lot of things for 6 months. After that time period, though, it just seems too far away, and I think you lose focus. So for me, at least, 6 months is a really good time where I can say, hey, I'm not going to have a sip of alcohol for 6 months. I'm going to work out every day for 6 months. I'm going to be engaged in this business in this manner for 6 months. And it's always the target is right there, right? Yeah. So, if we're sitting here in early summer recording this, and so, if it's July right now, 6 months from now is just right at the beginning of next year, right? And I'm like, Christmas, that's not that far away. I can do that. 3 months away is like Halloween. Okay, that's like the halfway point. I can do that.
Yeah.
And so he puts it within sight. And that, by the way, is what helps me not procrastinate and not lose focus, because I know the end is right there. And that's what I do with the people I coach is I try to make them focus on this 6 month thing, and we create a 6 month timeline. And sometimes they go well beyond the 6 months. There's nothing wrong with that. You can keep growing for 5 years if you want. I'm not going to stop you from growing, but that's first 6 months I think is critical. And then you have that one type of person who typically comes to me, or one type of business that they bring me in for, is successful businesses, and they're trying to do that. And I do a lot of that with automation systems, key performance indicators, and systems, SOPs, a lot of that kind of stuff. On the other hand, I also get calls, and these are some of my favorites, businesses that are failing. You got a business that is a great business, but it's right on the verge of bankruptcy. And I get called by the entrepreneurs themselves who want someone to come in and rescue them. Other times I'll get a call from the bankruptcy courts, or the folks involved in the bankruptcies, who have heard of what I can do, and they want to bring me in to take this company that's in Chapter 11 bankruptcy and save it from going full blown bankrupt. And then other times I hear about businesses that are struggling and failing, and I go in and buy them myself and get in there, do my thing, put my systems in place, put the right people in place, get it going, and be out of it within hopefully 6 months. And when I say be out of it, I don't mean sometimes sell it, but a lot of times I don't even need to sell it, because it can just become my next company that runs itself, and I'm on the sidelines, and I have people running it, and it works amazingly well. But those are my favorite 2 times to get a call: is the really successful company and the failing one. And in both cases, I think I do a pretty darn good job.
Sounds like it. I really like what you said there about the vision or the target being at 6 months. It feels so close. It feels so real when it's a year or a couple years down the line. it's easy to lose sight of it, to lose focus. And I really like what you said about that. I also want to talk about, like, what are these strategies? How do you go into a struggling business? And what are the systems that you put in place to help it recover and even thrive within 6 months?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about these strategies and systems, and it, of course, is different for every company. But I can tell you there are some common threads I see in just about every company I go into. Number one is key performance indicators. You have to have KPIs, right? And a KPI dashboard that at a glance shows you what's going on with your company. Here we are in a boat. Boats have amazing KPI dashboards, but most people have never driven a boat. So take your car, for example, and there's an airplane above. I happen to be a pilot as well, right? I have my private pilot's license. And in an airplane, my God, that KPI dashboard right in front of you is incredibly important. Without it, you can't fly the airplane, right? And in fact, it's funny, as part of your test for becoming a pilot, they actually do this thing where they cover up the dashboard with giving you these glasses that doesn't allow you to see any of the instruments, and they have you fly the plane. And you have to be able to fly the plane like that. And you can. For a few minutes, you're fine, right? If you really know what you're doing. But what I see is most of my clients who have me come in, whether it's a successful company or a failing one, they bring me into these situations where they're literally flying blind. And I'm looking at this going, my gosh, it's you have no vision of what's going on. You have no numbers to represent what you're seeing. And I'll listen to their complaints, right? What the problems are within their business. And they'll say, oh, well, sales in this area are weak, or, we just don't have enough leads, or we don't get this, and they'll tell me their problems. And I ask them to quantify it, and they almost never can quantify it, right? So they say, oh my gosh, our calls are going unanswered. I'm like, great. How many calls did you guys get last week? And of those calls, how many of them did you guys answer? And how many of them hung up before you could answer it? And then of the calls that you guys answered, how many of them were X, Y, and Z? And they just kind of look at me like, I'm supposed to know that? And I'm like, well, yeah, if you have a business that relies on incoming phone calls, you got to know all of that. Even financials. I'll ask business owners. I love asking them, if it's past the 10th of the month, I love asking them, like, so what was your net profit last month? And most of them have no clue. 90% of business owners have no clue by the 11th what their true net profit was last month. But the few who do, I'm like, okay, well, you got that one number, because everyone looks at the bottom line. So then I'll start asking other questions. I'll be like, okay, what was your gross profit margin? And what were your gross sales? And how did your expenses last month compare to your 90-day average? And how did your revenue compare to the 90-day average or your 6-month average? And they just sort of give me this blank stare. Imagine walking into a doctor's office and asking a successful doctor, whoever it is, it could be an orthodontist, a plastic surgeon, whatever. And you ask him those questions and they just stare at you like, are you kidding me? I'm supposed to know this? And I'm like, yeah, because you are running the business, right? And that typically leads to the second biggest thing, which is, there are essentially 3 different types of business owners. And we all have these 3 parts in us, but we're just better at some of it than others. And it's either the entrepreneur, the risk taker, the person who has the vision and goes and, raises the capital and does the crazy stuff. And that's sort of the entrepreneur. And everyone who owns a business thinks they're an entrepreneur or starts a business. But in reality, the word entrepreneur is sort of misused in this way. The second type of person is someone like a manager or an operator, someone who's really good at managing the day-to-day, the numbers, the systems. And then the third one is the artist, right? So the artist is the person who's involved in what's behind the scenes, what's really happening. So in a restaurant, if you're an artist, you're a chef who started a restaurant, right?
Gotcha.
If you're an artist as a doctor, well, your doctor work is your art, right? If you're a plastic surgeon, your plastic surgery is your art. If you're an orthopedic surgeon, your orthopedic surgery is your art, right? Now, not all doctors, by the way, are artists, because some doctors went into medicine because they love the systems within medicine. Now, a lot of those people end up being researchers and they don't practice medicine, but those who do, still a lot of them are operators and they're focused on the systems for what to do. And there are doctors who are truly entrepreneurs, and the art, they're obviously good doctors, otherwise they wouldn't have a successful business, but the art isn't what really gets them. It's the entrepreneurship. And those are the people who you'll see take a medical practice, and the next thing you know, they've got 8 other doctors working for them. Why? Because the art isn't what drives them, right? It's the concept, and they want to help more people and do more. And the easiest way to help more people is to have more people under you, right? So they'll bring in other doctors. But I like to help entrepreneurs or business owners immediately identify which of those three are they. And if you're watching, I guarantee you're one of those three. Just think about which one you are most. And it's huge because one of those, I guarantee, is just a natural part of you. The second one, you've sort of adapted to do. And there's always a third one that is just, miles and miles away from who you are. And it's different for everyone.
Which one is it for you that you're miles away from?
For me, it's interesting. For me, it depends on the business. Because I found like in this business, you're interviewing me on your podcast right now. We're talking about what I do as a business coach and things like that. In this business, I'm an artist. I'm an artist first and I'm an entrepreneur second. Okay.
Yeah.
But in most of my other businesses, like you take photography or even the recycling business, it's not the art that drives me. I got a little taste of being a tree hugger when I was in college at Berkeley, and I brought that into building All Green. But today what drives me within that business is not the tree hugger side, but it's the entrepreneurship side, right? So I want to grow the business. I want to do things with it. I want to create systems. That's the operator. So for me, in I say 90% of my businesses, I'm an entrepreneur first, and that's why I lose interest within 6 months. And I'm typically an operator second. Now, in a few of my businesses, because I love the art of it so much, that's kind of risen to be the number one thing. And it's interesting because in my businesses where I'm an artist, my businesses are nowhere near as big, and I don't have in any of my other businesses. If I did business coaching, I'd have 15 little business coaches working under me, and I don't. I have no business coaches who work for me, right? It's just me. So if you call Titanium Success, you either get me or nobody. And it's because I'm an artist. But as an entrepreneur, if I hired myself and said, I want to grow Titanium Success, the first thing I'd say is, hey, we got to get some people under you. Yeah. So I help business owners identify which of those three things they are and help them plug the gap, right? And that's the key, is you find most people are missing that one piece, right? And that one piece is typically not an employee they currently have. Sometimes it is, and we have to empower that person. But most important, most of the time, you got to go out and find that person. And it could be a family member, it could be a friend, it could be someone through your network somewhere, but you've got to plug that hole. And for a lot of doctors, let's say, it's going to be the operator. They need someone who's going to be there, who's going to be a practice manager or an office manager, who's going to run the day-to-day of the practice and make sure that they can focus on just being a doctor, right? And for some people, they're an operator and they need an entrepreneur, someone who's going to go out there and like raise money and make sales and take risks, right? And that's what they're lacking. But
for me, I was just thinking about it. You said usually there's, you're pretty good at one of the two of them, and the other one's just totally off. And I feel like you said, depending on the business, because for me, sometimes I'm super artistic, like with podcasting. I mean, I love being the artist more than the entrepreneur. In fact, when people first said, how are you going to monetize this? I was like, what? Wait, you make money off this? And then I started thinking with my entrepreneur side, and I was like, damn, if I don't start making money with this, like then there won't be a business, So I started out of passion, but then it clicks over and you realize how many different ways you can monetize different passions as well. Now, is it as big as maybe when you're going into other businesses and you're scaling and moving up? Probably not. But then I go to an entrepreneurial business and it has nothing to do with, like, sure, I enjoy it, but what I enjoy is like, all right, how are we going to make money? Like, let's take that risk. Like, what needs to be done right now? And yeah, I'm willing to do it. Like, I'm willing to do no matter what to get this business deal set up. But the manager, of the day-to-day operations, I just want somebody else to do that. I end up doing it for a lot of different things because you have to sometimes. But that for me is the one where I'm like, somebody else just take care of that.
Well, and you're very much like most successful entrepreneurs. That's the story you hear once you get them thinking about it, because if you're adapting to do the management and the operations, but I guarantee you that someone else out there actually loves doing that, right? And so they're much more excited about setting up systems, things that you would hate to have to sit there and do, right? They love it. They thrive on it. Create the system and then watch the system work. And if you find the right operator to come in or the right manager to come in as either a partner or as an employee, but it's got to be someone you're going to pay well. You got to take good care of them, because this is not someone who's just coming in and sort of just hanging out. I mean, this person's got to be big. And in fact, the litmus test for it is you almost have to feel like you work for them. Because if they're creating the systems, guess who's going to follow the systems? You do, right? And guess who's the first one to want to break the rules? The entrepreneur or the artist, right? So in a restaurant, what happens when you have an entrepreneur and then he or she hires a manager to come in, an operator to come in, and they start like creating systems in place, and they put rules and they have these things that have to be a certain way. And now the entrepreneur just wants to grow, right? And wants to make changes. And the operator's looking, no, whoa, wait. We have systems. You have to follow the rules. And for a lot of business owners, that's difficult to do. But that's how you know you've got someone good, is when you can get to the point where they are in some ways like your boss, right? Hey, at the end of the day, we know you own the business or most of the business, but the right operator or manager will get to that point. But go back to what I do is it's all these basic but small things like key performance indicators and identifying what those are and having people look at them every day and having it where it comes to you while you're passive and it is active. Okay, it's very important. So what does it mean that it comes to you actively? Meaning somehow your device, whether it's your cell phone or your email, ideally I like your cell phone. If as one of my the people I coach, if you let me, I hijack your cell phone, man, and I make that thing ring and give you stuff, right? So I guarantee you during this podcast, I've probably already received 5 or 6 text messages from my various companies, because it's that time of the day. The day is finishing up, and I'm getting texts of key performance indicators from different areas. Now, some key performance indicators come to me daily, some come to me weekly, some monthly, some quarterly, and some daily ones only come to me if they're really good or really bad. If they're within a certain window, I don't hear anything, right? But if they're really bad and they're below a certain thing, I hear about them. And if they're really good, I hear about them. Other things, I'll get one number, right? But then all I have to do is send one response, and then I get all these numbers that come, because I just need the basic. And if I'm okay with where the basic number is, I don't need to dig in any further. So KPIs then become a place where they can teach an entrepreneur where to dig. So go digging here. It's like a treasure map. A treasure map doesn't give you the treasure, but tells you where to dig for the treasure. Right. And that's what your KPI dashboard can be.
You talked about incoming calls and, what were call loss, how many calls did you miss? And as one of the KPIs, what are some other KPIs that you use in your businesses?
Yeah, it depends entirely on the business. But let's say for a medical office, it's going to be things like number of patients, okay? Number of patients scheduled, number of patients seen. It's going to be certain things related to revenue, certain things related to collections. In a restaurant, it's going to be number of patrons, let's say. It's going to be cost of your food. It's going to be possibly the age of some of your foods that can go bad, right? If you have a restaurant with steak, let's say, it's some of those kinds of numbers. It's related to things that have to do with revenue. It really depends on the business, and it's very, very different in each business, and it's highly specific to the business, but it's the things you need to know the general health of your business. And what I tell entrepreneurs, the way you know is this: you sort of think of the list of things you need to know, and I say, okay, so here's my test. I'm going to put you on an island for 3 months. You're going to be on an island for 90 days. And during those 90 days, I'm going to give you 30 seconds of internet access in the morning and 30 seconds of internet access at night. And in between, you can do whatever you want, but you have no communication with anyone. Can you still run your business? If you can, then it tells me you have an amazing KPI dashboard, which is exactly what I have for my businesses. I was just in Spain, and while I was in Spain in the morning, I get all these text messages that come in. They all could have easily come in 30 seconds, and then I look at them, right? And then based on what they say, I might ask certain questions or even provide guidance in some cases, right? And then at the end of the day, I'll get something else that comes back, and I can pretty much run my companies with those two points of communication. What
an incredible test, though, to run. I mean, just to ask yourself that question. I mean, 30 seconds in the morning and 30 seconds at night, and to minimize it down to get the most important information right there to get the biggest result. I love it.
That's it. And that 30 seconds can't be, an Excel spreadsheet that's like 80 pages long.
Yeah.
So it's, can you get that information and be able to make the decisions? Now, you might end up working for 4 hours between the two 30-second things. I'm not saying you can't work, but your work has got to be with that information. And so people look at that and sometimes say, well, Arman, that seems really complicated. I say, well, what's more complicated, that or the way a car works? If you think about it, a car has one of the most amazing KPI dashboards. And it's because it doesn't overwhelm you with information you don't need. Like when you get in your car, it doesn't say every time you get in, it doesn't say, hello, Corey, just so you know, the oil temperature in your car is perfectly fine today. Oh, and just so you know, it's at 83.6 degrees. And oh, by the way, your fuel level is at 3/4 of a gallon. And no, it doesn't get into that stuff because you don't need it, right? What happens if your car overheats? A red light goes on, right? So some KPIs in your business, it's just a red light. If we get to a certain point, if I'm in the restaurant business and I buy fillets, the first time we get, let's say, a piece of meat that's 4 days old, a red light needs to go off. And I just need to know how many pieces of meat have gotten to that point, right? That might be a simple KPI, but it's really that simple.
What kind of tool or system, like, is it an Excel spreadsheet? I know you're saying that like 80 pages, but how do you create a KPI dashboard for your business? I'm sitting here thinking about how specific you are in every single step of the business. Basically, you're tracking everything so specifically that you know exactly when and where there's a problem to intervene and make it better. Which, if you do that every single time there's a problem, you're going to have a very successful business as long as you're making the improvements. So I'm just wondering, how do you organize it into your own dashboard?
Yeah, so I like dashboards that are I like to get two types of things. One is, as I was saying before, is that active thing that gets pushed to me, right? And the problem with a traditional dashboard, let's say, is it doesn't get pushed to you, right? You have to actually go and seek out the dashboard. And when you're laying on the beach, or you're having a really busy day where you're overwhelmed as doing whatever it is that you do. If you're an attorney and you have a law practice and you're in court today, you're in trial, you're not going to go seek out your dashboard, right? So that dashboard needs to be there. And I actually use Google Sheets for just about everything related to this stuff. I do have some fancy programs. Some of my clients want to see charts and stuff, and we've got some fancy programs that we set up that do just that. But for the most part, a Google Sheet will do everything you need it to do as long as it's set up correctly and it gets fed from everywhere. So one is that Google Sheet. You go to one sheet and you see all your data in one place.
Wow.
But then the other one is text messages. It's honestly that simple. It's text messages, individual employees who text message you a certain amount of information in the same exact manner. And I'm crazy about like even where the spaces are, where there's a colon, where there's a dash, because I want to look at it as at an instant. I want to be able to look at a text message and within 3 seconds know if I need to spend time looking at it further or not. And often that's all it is. I'll look at a text and I'll just put it away. Or if I want to be really polite, I'll look at it and say thanks. Or if it's a really great number, I might say great job or, keep it going. And then sometimes, oh man, it's one of those numbers that's either really bad or really good. And I want to know more information. Yeah. And I can quickly send a text back and then they give me the additional information. And if you have layers of management, like, with my recycling company, with having as many employees as we do, there are many layers of management. So KPIs flow all throughout my company. And so that in line level employees are reporting to their supervisors reporting to managers are reporting to directors, and then those directors are reporting numbers to me, but not all the numbers below them, just the ones that I need to know.
Right.
Because a lot of times when I get called into these companies that are doing extremely well, it's almost always companies doing extremely well, but on the verge of like disaster, right? It's just like things are not right and it's shaky. What happens is they've sort of blown through one of those points where, they were doing a great job of managing the company. And they hired like one more person or two more people. But what's now happened is there are too many of these connections up to them, and some people say 5, some people say 3, some people say 8. And the number really depends on the business and depends on you and a lot of other factors. But the reality is somewhere around 5, maybe it's 4 to 6, I don't know. You can no longer manage people. But the trick that the business world, business gods play on us is you don't realize it at first. You go from managing 5 people to managing 7 or 8 or 9 or 10. It really doesn't feel like anything has changed. You're just like, oh, I'm good. Everything is good. And for a few months, often it's perfectly fine. And then things start falling apart. And what most business owners don't anticipate is what a massive change happens when you go from just managing 3, 4, or 5 people to managing 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And often you see these businesses where, they'll be up to 18 or 19 employees. And, and one of the employees is a receptionist at the front desk. But the owner still communicates with the receptionist. And I don't mean like, hi, Joe, how are you doing? How was your day? How was your weekend? I mean like, hey, Joe, I'm not getting my calls. And it's like, whoa, no. That conversation can't happen. Or Joe or Melissa is calling in sick. And who are they calling in sick to? the owner, right? And the company's, let's say, at 14 employees even. You can't have that. That's how companies crumble. And so a big part of what I have to do when I go in is to create that structure. And sometimes it's about getting these high-level managers in. And often it's not even that. It's just empowering some of the employees you already have to oversee certain other things, right? So if you got 3 people answering phones, empowering one of them to become the lead and have that one person be the one who gets all the data, right, and puts it together and then reports that data on a daily basis. And that's the person who maybe is your lead or wants to become your lead, and you give them an opportunity to grow. And I think that's something I'm really proud of. And most of the companies I get involved in, there is a lot of growth that occurs within the individual people, because I expect a lot more from employees than most business owners do. And as a result, guess what? These people become more, and so they make more, and they enjoy their jobs more. And my business owners, they get a lot more time to themselves, and they get to do the things they love to do, because now they're not spending time doing all these other things that often they're not even that good at, and they're sitting there trying to manage it.
I wanted to talk about just some of the common mistakes that you see these entrepreneurs make that is really hurting their business, right? You talk about you were brought in when the business is failing. What did they do to get to that point? What mistakes did they make, and how can we avoid it?
Yeah, so there are some really common mistakes. I think some of the ones I've already mentioned is not having a KPI dashboard.
Right.
A second one that I sort of alluded to is not looking at your financials on a regular basis and understanding the bottom line numbers within your business. And by bottom line numbers, I don't mean just net profit. It's what's on your P&L. It's what's on your balance sheet, and it's what's on your statement of cash flows. And those 3 documents, as a business owner, you must look at them and you must dissect them every single month. And I like the 10th of the month, somewhere around the 10th of the month, accounting people need to have that stuff ready and present it to you. Now, if you're a one-man show or a one-woman show, guess what? You're the accountant. Prepare it for yourself and present it to yourself. And so I see people running companies without understanding those financials. And I'd say that's probably the biggest mistake I see. And it's the equivalent of watching a sports game, say like basketball, where there's a lot of scoring and no one's keeping score. And it's just kind of like it's the third quarter and like, well, I'm thinking the red team is doing really well. Yeah, they're looking like they're doing well. What do you mean it's looking like they're doing really well? Like how many points do they have? Oh, we don't really know. I kind of think that they're probably at about 100 points. What? No, you can't. You can't have a basketball game like that. And in fact, part of that analogy is, how long would you watch a basketball game if I covered up the score? I mean, I challenge my business owners to do this. The ones who don't have a KPI dashboard, I say, so tell me about your KPIs. And they're like, well, I don't have any. I say, okay, here's my challenge to you. What sport do you like? And I hope they like basketball, because something like soccer, you can actually probably keep track of the score, right? But I say, my challenge to you is this: go to your TV at home and see if it has one of those settings to like make the screen wide or something. And usually you can get it where it's sort of, you kind of lose part of the screen. And then I say, I want you to watch an entire basketball game, right, without being able to see the score. And if you can't do it, put some tape over it or something, cover it up. And what almost always comes back is they come back, next week or whatever, and they're just laughing. And I'm like, did you do it? They're like, no. I made it halfway through the second quarter and I just couldn't do it anymore. So I was like, okay, Arman wins. I get his point. And I uncovered it. I've never had anyone come back and say, yes, I watched the entire game. Oh yeah, and I enjoyed it. No, because it doesn't happen.
That's a great analogy. I mean, and just to think about how many people start a business and don't even have, and those are pretty simple documents. I've gone through them, and actually the first time I did it, I was super lost. But if you spend a little bit of time, they can be incredibly helpful to show you exactly what's going on in your business, which is just great analogy. Like if you don't know those numbers, if you don't know your cash flow, if you don't know what's going on financially, I mean, you're not a business owner,
No.
So
you're just an overworked employee at that point. And you might be making good money, you might not be. But I can tell you, if you're not making money, well, that's a major problem. But even if you are making money, trust me, time is ticking, right? And it's a ticking time bomb, because if the business is making money, you're seeing money in the bank account at the end of the month. And that's what I would say is the number one thing that I think business owners look at. As long as there's money in the account and it's growing, they're like, oh yeah, it's working. As long as they can make ends meet and pay the bills, they think it's working. And unfortunately, that's really probably the worst way of gauging how your business is doing. So I would say that's probably one of the most common mistakes. And then the other common mistake I'll see people make is entrepreneurs early on is they overinvest in the business by acquiring things that make them feel good, but don't really make any money. And I have so many people who come to me with ideas through social media, and I love helping young people. So they'll come to me and they'll give me their ideas of what they want to do. And often they're trying to get advice. And in some cases, they're trying to get me to invest in their company. And they usually don't like the answers I give them because, they'll have this great idea and they're like, well, I can build a thing that does this and that and blah, blah, blah. And my thing is usually like, okay, well, let's try it out. How can you make that thing at home? And they're like, well, I can't make it at home, right? And I remember a young man who came to me and said, I have this idea for creating these pre-workout, this thing you take before you work out that gives you energy. Yeah. And he was like, have you ever had an Otter Pop? And I was like, yeah, those little icicle things that come in a little bag. He said, well, I want to make a pre-workout that's like an Otter Pop. And I was like, wow, great idea. And he was like, would you buy it if I had? I was like, absolutely, man. That's a great idea. And then he started talking to me and he was asking me my advice. In this case, he wasn't asking me for money, but he wanted to know if he should invest the money or if he should get someone else to invest the money. And I said, well, how do you know it's going to work? He's like, well, you think it's a great idea and all my friends think it's a great idea. And I said, well, I have a better idea. Why don't you do this? If you go to Macy's, they sell this thing that makes you can make your own little Ziploc bags, right? It's like a sealer. I said, why don't you buy one of those and then go get, and they're like $50. I said, then go buy your favorite pre-workout, right? Mix it with some water because he was like, I'm going to send it to, I don't know what, some state to like have them make a new formula and stuff. Forget all that, right? Mix it with some water, put it in those little things, make your own little bags, seal them, put them in the freezer. And then once they freeze, now you actually have a sample. And he just had got done telling me that if only he had, I don't know, $100,000, he could get a sample, right? And I'm thinking, you could get your sample for $50 in a little bit of time. In fact, I upped it a notch when I saw him looking at me like I was crazy. I said, by the way, you don't even need to buy one of those things because I actually have one at home and you can come borrow mine. You can use my bags, you can use my sealer. That'll be my investment in the company. And he kind of looked at me funny and I said, and try it. See if you even like them. What if you try it and it's horrible?
Right.
And if you like them, then share it with a couple of your friends. But then still, that's not even enough, right? Now, by the way, as you're hearing me say this example, apply it to whatever business you're in. I don't care what business you're in. You can create this concept of a do-it-yourself thing to see if it works. Basically, my thing is to claim you're doing what you are going to be doing already and see if anyone's interested in buying. Okay? So if you can build a boat that also flies, okay? Hey, and I think they've built those, right? But if you have a new concept for how to build a flying boat, I challenge you to do this. Claim you've already built a flying boat. Maybe make a website for it. I don't know. Maybe make some flyers, right? And go see if you can find a buyer. And if someone says, yes, I want to buy your flying boat, and they're like, check in hand, say, oh, you know what? I'm so sorry. We're out of stock. But in 12 months, I'll have one for you. Now go get your investors and figure it out and build your flying boat. Right. Because you just don't know if the market's there. So in this case,
what happened with the popsicles?
So this pre-workout Otter Pop popsicle thing, I challenged him. I said, and in fact, I'll take it one step further. Make like 50 of them, right? And go get some labels from Staples. They cost like $5. Print labels at home, put stickers on them, and then take them to some of the gyms. Because I said, how are you going to distribute it? He said, oh, through gyms. I said, great. I said, do you have any little mini refrigerator from college or something? He was like, oh my God, yeah, I used to have one on my door. It's in the storage. I said, great. Go get that little mini fridge, put a sticker on it, right, that you print, and then get these little Otter Pops, get 50 of them made at home, put little stickers on them, go to your local gym, go to one gym who's willing to sell them and say, look here, I've got the fridge, I've got these Otter Pops, put them in here, sell them for $3 a piece, and guess what? You keep all the money, right? There's no objection to that. And I said, why don't you go do that? And in this particular case, I think the entrepreneurial idea stopped right there because, he sort of realized, or maybe sort of started to think about it and realized that there really isn't a market for it. And someone's going to hear this and go do it, and he's going to kill me for giving his idea away. But anyways, the bottom line is that if you have an idea, see if it actually works, do something to see if it works. And then don't overinvest in the business early on. And I only know this because early on when I started businesses, I'd go buy like computer desks and fancy computers and business cards and, brochures and all this stuff. And I would think that if I don't have business cards, well, how am I going to do business? Well, I don't know. Tell someone to put your number in their cell phone and text you, or you text them. And so to this day, 95% of the time, I don't carry around business cards. I have them. They're really fancy, but I usually usually don't carry them around, because if someone says, I want to hire you as a business coach, I'm like, great, what's your phone number? Let me text you.
Yeah.
You know, not, oh, here's my card, call me. And so
I don't even have cards either. And I was recently out and someone was like, oh, where's your business card? I was like, I don't have one anymore. Like, I just, like, you want to follow me on social media? We can text. We can do anything with phones nowadays. I'm like, I guess people still want it for the physical, to like be able to hold it. And sure, you can get some business cards made. But that was an interesting thing. It's also interesting because I've had a lot of people say stuff like that where they overinvest in the business, or other people do things like business cards, you know, which cost $50, but more importantly, your time that it takes to actually invest energy into that process when you should be working on the business. Correct. And I'm a big believer in doing what you said. I like that idea a lot. Like, if you have an idea, you got to figure out if there's a customer first and foremost. If they go, yeah, sign me up, like, let me buy it, you get 100 people to buy it, you're like, all right, I got something here, and just say, we're, you know, delayed, or the manufacturing's delayed, and we'll get to it as soon as possible. Super interesting. And I love that about entrepreneurship, is like, what can people do? And you can even do that right away and say, hey, I'm going to sell you this, and not even have the product necessarily ready, just to be able to test it. You can even apologize and say, I'm sorry. I know that some people feel like they have to get everything perfect. And I used to be like that a little bit, a lot, not a little bit, a lot. And it really stops you from ever actually taking action. So I appreciate that. I want to jump into this really quick because you have so much passion for entrepreneurship, and I love that. Where do you think, like, how do you develop these passions for business and get excited about it? Because there's a lot of people who are like, they have an idea, they get really excited, and then boom, it fizzles out, just like you said. Mm-hmm. How do you get that fire, that intensity to go in and build a business day in, day out, and something that you love? Mm-hmm. How do you do it?
You know, I think that's where you have to step outside of your business and see what drives you, what motivates you. You know, for me, I have a lot of motivators. You know, here we are sitting on this boat, and it's a nice boat, but I want a bigger boat, right? That motivates me. More importantly than boats and things like that, my kids motivate me, my wife, providing for my family. I just bought a new house, and we spent 12 months remodeling it. And I don't know what airplane that is, but let me tell you, that's a lot bigger than the airplane I have. So that motivates me. You know, I want to have a plane that can make that much noise. Yeah. You know, it's about knowing what drives you day in and day out. And I'm talking about boats and planes and cars, but really for me, what drives me is the lifestyle I can create for my family, being able to take care of my kids, and not having my kids go through some of the suffering that I had to go through as an immigrant family, you know, having moved here when I was 9 years old, and having to learn how to adjust and speak the language, and living in a 2-bedroom apartment with the entire family, and not having enough money to have the things I wanted. I didn't ever want to be there again. And so I want to create a better life for my kids, and I love to do stuff. I love boats, I love planes, I love to travel, I love nice cars, exotic cars, and so I put all that stuff out there, and I say, look, these are all the things I want. Now, how am I going to get there? And the vehicle becomes a new business possibly, right? And then, well, if I'm going to do it day in and day out, do I want to kill myself doing something I hate? Or do I want to kill myself doing something that I'm passionate about? But we got to be careful there, because I believe a lot of people use passion as an excuse to not take action. And so what I'll tell people is, I get a lot of people, for example, who come to me and say, well, what should I major in college? And I say, I don't know. You know, what do you like? And they're like, well, I'm not sure either. I'm like, well, you know what? Then just flip a coin, or, you know, go open the catalog and point at something and go major in that thing, because it's better than not knowing what you're going to major in. Okay. Now, if you go towards that direction for 8 months, and then after 8 months decide you want to do something else, fine, go do something else. But don't just stay sitting there and standing and stagnant without going towards anything, because I see people who are in their 40s and 50s and they're still just stagnant, waiting for something, for them to be passionate about something. And I believe passion is critical, and it's really important, but I think hard work is the most important thing. So if you know what you're passionate about, go do it, but go do it now. If what you're passionate about isn't something you can monetize now, what's number 2 on your list? Go do that now. What's number 3? Number 4? I don't care if we have to get to number 963. There's got to be something you're passionate about that you can do today. If you'd rather sleep in today, then I question whether you're passionate about the results that you want in life. Maybe you need to stop thinking about how to make money and start thinking about what you're going to do with your money. And for some people, it's not even money. Business is a vehicle for them to get something else. Maybe it's they feel like that will make them feel more important. That'll make them feel more valuable. That'll make them that'll allow them to help people more, whatever it may be. But you got to have that in mind before you go out there and you try to find what you're passionate about. You really need to just be ready to work hard at whatever it is and then start going.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been absolutely fantastic, Arman. I really, really appreciate it. I wanted to, as we wrap things up, I just wanted to go over one of the other things too. We talked a lot about taking action right now. What do you think is something somebody can do right now today to take massive action towards their goals and dreams? Like, what would you recommend somebody do that wants to be an entrepreneur?
That's a great question. If you're an entrepreneur out there and you're ready to take some massive action on something, number one thing I'd say come up with a list of 5 or 6 areas of your life, including business, that you want to take to the next level. List those things out, and I challenge you to do a 21-day challenge. I love 21-day challenges. 21 days in a row where you're going to take 5 or 6 areas of your life, and it could be things like business is going to be one of them, could be health, could be a second one, like what you eat, fitness could be a third one. If you have kids, maybe a certain amount of time you spend with your kids, or if you have a significant other, something with your significant other, or if you have a hobby or passion, whatever it is. But I want you to pick 5 or 6 different areas of your life, including business, and commit to exactly what you're going to do for 21 straight days, okay? And so if you're going to commit to eating healthy, what foods will you have and what foods will you absolutely not have for 21 straight days? If you're going to work out, you're going to work out every day for 21 days. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do? How many minutes? How long are you going to be there? And one of those things is going to be business. And the reason I say that is because I feel like if and I don't feel it in this case, I've seen it time and time again with myself and with others. If you're going to go out and try to get to a certain level with entrepreneurship, you have to be prepared to take massive action. And there's going to be pain involved, right? And guess what? Dieting has pain involved. Fitness has pain involved. Spending time with your kids. I know you love your kids, but if your kids are anything like mine, you love them. But man, spending one-on-one time with them sometimes on the floor, playing with them can be painful for more reasons than one, right? And so the key is getting all these areas and committing 21 days of your life to personal and self-growth, including whatever you're going to do in business. Now, it doesn't mean you take your 24 hours in a day and divide it equally. No, not at all. It may be that you commit to waking up at, let's say, 5 o'clock in the morning. Maybe 4 scares you. Fine, 5 o'clock. I don't care, but it's a time that you don't miss. And so if you say 5 o'clock, I don't mean 5:01 or 5:02. I mean 5. So you set your alarm for like 4:56. That gives you 4 minutes to get your butt out of bed, and then commit to a certain number of hours of work a day. And if you've got a business you're passionate about, you're already in, or you want to get into, or whatever it is, how many hours are you going to spend in that thing? But focused, meaning there's no cell phones, there's no social media, unless your business is social media. There's none of that stuff, no distractions, no personal calls. And I even challenge people, if you work in an office environment, that if you are going to eat, you're going to answer personal emails, you're going to take texts or social media or any of that stuff, you leave the environment. You get up and clock out. Right. And I've had entrepreneurs who I've coached where I'll literally set up a time clock for them. And I force them to clock in and out. Now, some of them, we could do it with an iPhone, but, in other cases, I'll go get them an old school time clock thing. And I'll be like, you got to punch out before you check your cell phone, because some people you see, they waste so much time with that. So that would be my challenge. You take 21 days and see what you can get done in 21 days. I think it's incredible the amount of effort that a human being can put out in 21 days, and you can do things that you never thought possible. And at the end of the 21 days, you might be like me and kind of get addicted to the results you're getting and want to continue it. And I think that's a great way to start.
Awesome. I love that challenge. And I know you're a huge fan of challenges, and I've been part of a few of them with fitness, and it's a lot of fun. So Arman, thank you again. Before you leave, tell people where we can find you online and how we can connect with you.
Yeah, the easiest way to find me is to just go to titaniumsuccess.com. You can also look me up on social media, Arman Sadeghi, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all those places. I think the most important thing out there for anyone who wants to get in touch with me is if you are a business owner and you're succeeding and you're growing your business, but you want to either take your business to that next level and work less, or you just want to work a lot less but still make a lot of money, I can help you a lot. And if you just want some advice, you're a young kid out there and you just want some advice, please reach out to us on the website. You can call the office, you can email us or fill out a little form. I respond to every single inquiry we get eventually. And I'd be happy to guide you or just chat with you, whatever it may be.
Awesome. I really appreciate that too, and just helping out everybody. So our last question is always this, man. You've been massively successful with all these different companies, but I always think that there's a next level. So for you, what is that next level of success?
I want to get to the point where I have more businesses, and I want to bring all my businesses together somehow under one umbrella so that I have a management team that manages all of my companies for me. And that's something that I do not have yet. Some of my companies are sort of interconnected, but some are just so random and out there that there's no central business that runs all those businesses. And so my next big thing is to get to that point. And with a couple of these new businesses that I'm getting into, some pizza restaurants that I'll probably be getting into here in the next couple of months, and a few other random things, I have a big goal of figuring out how to do that. And that's going to allow me to get involved in bigger things and run bigger companies, have more companies under me, and even, take some of my clients' companies and stick them under that umbrella as well, and take them on and help them get to the next level.
That's incredible, man. A true serial entrepreneur and inspiration. Arman, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
If you guys enjoyed the show and learned something of value, the one ask that we have is please go subscribe. If you'd like to leave us a 5-star rating and review, that definitely helps us get our message out there. Because each week I'm going to interview amazing people, and I want to be able to give you more and more tools and strategies that get you real results. Feel free to connect with me on Facebook or Instagram at Corey Corpodian, or just visit the website at unleashsuccess.com. Remember, knowing is not enough. Knowledge alone is not power. Action is. Because action is the only way to get the results you want in life and truly live the life of your dreams. So go take some action. Subscribe to the podcast and get ready to unleash success in you.